In today's video, I'm going to run through a list of 5 games that I think serve as great introductions to popular board game mechanics, plus 1 extra bonus. If you're new to the hobby, these will help you explore the different mechanics that are out there and help you find what you might like. Without further ado, let's get started. Up first is my pick for best game to introduce worker placement, Mintworks. In Mintworks, you and up to 3 other players are competing to build the best mint factory. You'll do this by placing your little mint-shaped workers onto the various action spaces of the board, allowing you to gain more workers, compete for that first player token, and collect and build the various buildings, such as the workshop, the crane, and the windmill. First player to get to 7 points from their buildings wins the game. And most importantly for our purposes today, Mintworks teaches one of the main tenets of worker placement games, which is that the number of actions you can take each round are limited, and the number of spaces on each action are limited as well. If an opponent blocks the last space for a particular action, you can't do it. So it's important that you prioritize the things you really want to do, while at the same time being able to improvise if your plan is interrupted by an opponent. Up next is my pick to introduce area control, Carcassonne. In Carcassonne, you and up to 4 other players take turns laying tiles to build out the city. After placing a tile, you'll have the option of placing one of your meeples onto a feature of that tile. For example, a city. When that feature is complete, like this for example, you tally up the score, and you return the meeple to your supply, allowing you to deploy it to future areas of the board. Any particular feature can only be occupied by 1 meeple at a time, so it's important for you to claim areas of the board you think will be worth a lot of points by the end of the game. However, and this is really where the area control element comes in, you can actually steal features from an opponent. If you have more meeples in a feature than an opponent, when it's complete and the score is ultimately tallied up, you get all of the points and they get nothing. Up next is my pick for best game to introduce drafting, Point Salad. In Point Salad, you and up to 5 other players take turns picking a card, or drafting it, from the available cards on the table and adding it to your collection. You can either choose one of the point cards or any 2 veggie cards. The cards say things like 3 points per lettuce, -2 per tomato, things like that. After all the cards on the table have been drafted, count up the points and most points wins. Point Salad is 100% drafting. Although this game is really simple, if you pay close attention, you can actually pick up a lot of the nuances of drafting games. Really what you want to be doing is finding the open lane. While everyone is fighting over carrots, you want to be the only one silently collecting all the peppers. Okay, and up next, my pick for best game to introduce deck building is Dominion. In Dominion, you and up to 3 other players start with a basic deck of 7 coppers and 3 estates. Each round you'll have 5 cards to play from your deck. You'll use actions to draw more cards, cause your opponents to discard, and much more. And most importantly to a deck building game, you'll acquire more cards like gold and victory points, while at the same time trying to trash your weaker cards, which will help you draw into your stronger stuff more often and the right combinations of cards when you need them. Unlike TCGs like Magic and Pokemon where you're building your deck before the game starts, in Dominion you build your deck over the course of the game. That is the game. One key to success in Dominion is finding the right balance of cards. For example, if you have way too many libraries in your deck, you could just draw through a bunch of cards and not actually be able to do anything with them. After a few rounds of Dominion, there's a lot that can be transferred to skillful play of other more complex games. And up next, Machi Koro. This is my pick to introduce dice rolling. In Machi Koro, players are building out a fictional Japanese city. Every turn you'll roll 1 dice, and depending on the result, will activate either one of your own buildings, or one of your opponent's buildings, or some combination. You then use these coins that you earn to purchase more buildings. And the first player to purchase all 4 landmark buildings wins the game. So for example, we have the wheat field. It says anytime any player rolls a 1, you collect 1 coin from the bank. That's pretty straightforward. Odds are 1 in 6 on any person's turn that that card's gonna activate. At some point in the game though, you can choose to purchase the train station, which allows you to roll either 1 or 2 dice instead. The results of 2 dice become a bell curve, with 2 being rare and 12 being rare. 7 is actually the most common result when 2 6-sided dice are rolled. Starting to understand those odds will help you value the different buildings appropriately and develop a winning strategy in Machi Koro. And finally, our bonus game and engine builder, Splendor. In Splendor, you and up to 3 other players are competing to collect the most gems and impress the nobles. The first player to reach 15 points wins. On your turn, you can either choose 3 gems of different colors or buy a card. Every card you have in front of you reduces the cost of future purchases by the color of gem in the top right. At the beginning of the game, you'll be taking a lot of tokens as you don't really have many cards and you'll have to buy things at face value. But as the game goes on, you'll start to be able to get a lot of cards either for free or really cheap. If you're playing well, you're going to find yourself thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. And the game very quickly becomes a race to the finish as your quote engine starts to ramp up. So those are my picks for best games to introduce popular board game mechanics. If you think there are any games that highlight these mechanics really well or better than some of the games I mentioned, please let me know in the comments. And if there are any mechanics you think that are important enough that I left off of this list, let me know that as well. I'm always looking for games like this to help bring more people into our hobby. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like and consider subscribing for future board game content just like this. Thanks for watching.